This is episode 4 of the Foley and James podcast. Today we are going into part 2 of the USA backpacking stories. This is going to be following myself, James, from my trip starting in Lima, Peru, flying to Florida and making my way overland to Texas and then up to Boston, Massachusetts.
So yeah, James, you left Lima, right? I think we kind of flew within a couple of days of each other again, didn't we?
Yeah, it was, I think you flew slightly before me. That's why we split up earlier in Cusco in Peru. But I just went to Lima, had a couple of days there, and I ended up flying out to Florida, whereas you flew out to Texas. But I flew to Fort Lauderdale just because I got the cheapest flight possible out of South America to anywhere in the US, and it happened to be to Fort Lauderdale in Florida. Now, I was trying to do the similar thing that we did when we were in South America as far as staying in hostels and, keeping to that budget of not really going over $10 for a night's accommodation, all this sort of stuff. But in the US, hostels are expensive. You're looking to pay at least $30 a night everywhere you go, and that was well out of my price range. So I decided to turn exclusively to couch surfing. I did a mixture of couch surfing through the website of Couchsurfing, which we mentioned before, and also through friends and family that I've got sort of scattered around, which I'll go into as I come across the cities. But yeah, I started in Fort Lauderdale, and I couch surfed with this guy who I was his first ever couch surfer. And normally I wouldn't stay with someone who hadn't done it before, because this profile, he had no references, no nothing. But all I did was put out a request to the city of Fort Lauderdale on Couchsurfing and say, is anyone there who wants to host me? And he just sent me this message. It was a really nice message, and I could just tell that it was going to be a really cool time, and he was, he was legit. It was a nice guy and everything.
That's really cool.
One thing he did mention in his message to me was that he's got a pit bull. And and he said, look, she's fine, but some people are scared of pit bulls. I just wanted to say that I've got a pit bull, and if you're comfortable with that, you're more than welcome to come along. If you're not comfortable with that, that's why I put it in the message so you can decide. Which was really fair. But I went along with it. I trusted him. If he says she's fine, she's fine. And this dog was the nicest dog. I mean, obviously, as well, like pit bulls have got this horrendous reputation, stereotype about them, and she was just the best dog. She was so friendly. Like, as soon as you stroke her once, she's your best friend. Like, she was the best. And I was sleeping on the sofa in this guy's room, and that was normally her bed. And so I woke up one morning because there was this huge weight on my chest, and it just jumped on. The dog had jumped on me, and it was a heavy dog, man. This thing was all muscle. And I opened my eyes to see the head of a pit bull looking me right in the eyes. And that was actually quite scary, I'm not going to lie, but she just licked me, she's fine. But yeah, Fort Lauderdale was great, and we actually, because that's right down in the south of Florida, that's close to Miami. I'd never been to Miami before. I thought I want to go there. I was asking the guy if I could maybe get a bus down there, or how to do that, and he said, I'll take the day off work and we'll go down there in the car. So we drove down to South Beach, took a walk along the sand there, and it was just really cool to be down in Miami and see all that whole scene,
Oh wow, that's amazing. That he did that,
Yeah, this is the thing, man. Couch surfing is so cool because you get these extra experiences. People will go out of their way for you. Not all the time. Sometimes people will literally just offer you a couch to sleep on, and that's great. But there are some occasions where they will just go the extra mile, and this was one of them. Up to the point where I was looking for a couch surfing host in Orlando, which is my next stop. And I couldn't find anyone. I would think it was the summer. Well, it was the summer, and there were no students around or whatever, and so there was it was just no hosts available in Orlando. But he was like, I went to college in Orlando. My best friend or my roommate from college still lives there. I'll see if he can host you, and he did. And so through this guy that I met on Couchsurfing, I then just went and stayed with his best friend in Orlando for a night, which was really cool.
That's brilliant. And, that's brilliant. I can't remember why. Why did I try to help you with Orlando? I can't remember.
Yeah, you tried to help me because I think if we go back to the last podcast where you went from Texas to Orlando.
Yeah.
And I think we were in Orlando at a similar time. It's just you were already working at the camp and therefore weren't able to, put me up anywhere or anything like that. But I got this guy's friend in Orlando to stay with, and it turned out that I think it was one of his friend's birthdays. So we went out in Orlando. In fact, it was while you were there, because the soccer game that you talked about in the last podcast was the one we went and watched in a bar. And, Orlando City were playing, and we went to a bar, joined like this whole bunch of friends there, and for some reason the bar had a promotion on, I think Heineken, but like their promotion was they're just giving away free Heineken. And so we got drunk for free in that bar, and then one of the group of friends just like was talking to me, and he, like I was the foreign guy, and he just like interested in stuff, asking about my South America stories and everything. And he was like, look man, I know the owner of another bar just around the corner, like we can drink there for free for a bit if you want to come. And I was like, sure. So we just went round to this bar. It's kind of like a rock bar. It was really cool. And we went in there down like an underground bar. And we were just in there for like a couple of hours drinking spirits and beer and everything, all for free. The bar like staff all knew this guy, and it was a really cool night, man, or day. Like we just got so drunk for the whole day. It was great fun.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. Indeed. So were you in Florida for long?
I did Florida for like a week. So I did like 3 days in Fort Lauderdale, just one night in Orlando, and then I went up to Tallahassee, Florida, which is the state capital, and that was so cool. Like I didn't expect anything from that place. I'd never heard of Tallahassee before. It was just, and when I looked at a map, it was on the way between Orlando and New Orleans, and I figured I don't want to do that jump in a day. I'll stop in Tallahassee. I did the same thing I did for Fort Lauderdale, as I put a request on Couchsurfing to the city, see who comes back to me, and I have never had so many offers for hosts in a city before. I got like 7 within the first 2 days, and I thought, this is awesome. Like this must be such a cool place. I'm going to stay there for an extra couple of nights and stay with 2 different hosts, which I've never done before in a city. I normally just stay with one host for the time I'm there. But I thought, like, there's so many people that just want to meet me.
Brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. And so I stayed with this guy, or the 2 guys, the first night, and we went out, like, Tallahassee's a college town. It's where Florida State Uni is, the Gators, home of Gatorade. That's where that came from. And, yeah, man, so we just went to some dive bars and all this sort of stuff. It was really cool. And then I ended up staying the next few nights with a girl as well. And she had... that was really good, because as it happened, I didn't know this at the time, but she had not just a couch to offer, but a whole bedroom. So like I had my own bedroom for the first time in like 4 months, which was really cool.
That's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, and like we just got drunk. Like we just went out. I should have mentioned this at the start. I made the US part. I didn't really know kind of how to put it together and all this sort of stuff, but I noticed that the route I was taking from arriving in Florida, going to Texas to see my family, and heading up to Boston, that crosses through like the major music cities of the country. And I decided to make my US leg all about music. And so what I did was, as I went through a new city and a new state, I would find a song that was like related to that. Either it had it in the name, or it was from an artist who was from there or something. So I made up this cool playlist from the USA, which was really great. And
wow,
yeah, like
Tallahassee really cool.
Tallahassee was tough just because there are no songs really with Tallahassee in the title, except for one which happened to find, which was kind of cool. But
yeah. That's all. I'd forgotten about that you were actually doing that with the music. That was really cool.
Also, in addition, I did like a food thing. Like, I don't know, being from Europe and seeing American movies and sitcoms and all this sort of stuff, you become aware of all their fast food and all these sort of chains and stuff. And I made it about food as well. And I actually ended up having, I think, 18 fast food like meals within the first 21 days or something. And that was one of the things, like the girl I stayed with in Tallahassee, we went to like 4 or 5 different fast food restaurants. But the problem was, like, in America you have to drive everywhere just because everywhere is like kind of big. And we were ridiculously drunk, but apparently drunk driving is not a big deal, at least in Florida it didn't seem to be, because we were blasted and went to Wendy's, which is quite funny.
Nice. So you, I did it the other way. I went from New Orleans straight to Orlando, but you obviously took the stop, which is nice, which turned out to be brilliant, judging by the sounds of things. And then, New Orleans was next for you.
It was, and New Orleans was really cool. This was the first sort of family connection, just because the guy, it's kind of a tenuous link. So my cousin, I got 4 cousins, they're all in Texas, they're all female. The first one I was going to visit is married, and her husband's best friend lived in New Orleans. So I went and stayed with him, although he wasn't there that weekend, so I was actually staying in like the house he lived in, which happened to be this huge house from this young married couple who, I don't know, maybe they were 30 years old or something, who were clearly very well off. Like, they were family friends with the Glazer family, who, if you don't know,
Wow.
that's the family that owns like Manchester United and all this sort of stuff. Like, it was insane. This house was huge, and it was really traditional Louisiana, like French decor and everything. You know, really proud of that heritage and that history. It was really cool. And obviously, I went down into the French Quarter, Bourbon Street, all that sort of stuff, and experienced my first proper like storm. You know, we touched upon it in the last podcast when you were talking about it as well, and like, it was insane. I just had to go from the car to the door of the house, which was literally just over the sidewalk, and it was as if I'd been outside for like 15 minutes in this rain. It was ridiculous.
How long did you end up staying there for? And did you stay in the one spot the whole time?
Yeah, in New Orleans I did. Like, it was great, man. Like, so I didn't do too much with the hosts because they were busy. But I met like one of their friends, and he's from Louisiana, but he lives in Dallas. And he said, "Oh, you know, when you come to Dallas," like I told him my trip, and I said, he said, "When you come to Dallas, you can stay with me if you want." I was like, "Fantastic! I'll get you on Facebook, blah blah blah." And but yeah, I stayed there for like 3 days, and then I moved on to Houston, and that's where I visited my first of 4 cousins there. And if you remember, like, I don't really have any money. I've gone to Houston. That's where my replacement card that I lost in Uruguay has been sent. So I actually arrived in Houston with $7 to my name. That was all the cash I had available to me in the world. It was really like, yes. I mean, I timed it. I mean, it had been timed perfectly, but I was sort of starting to get a bit stressed out. Like, if the bus broke down on the way, because it's a good 8 hours or so, if the bus broke down on the way, or if, like, I don't know, if I got on the wrong bus or something, you know, if something happened, then I'm stuck.
Yeah, that's not a fun feeling.
But I went to Houston, and as you can imagine, you know, my cousins living in Texas and me being from England, I don't get to see them all that much. So I hadn't seen my first cousin, you know, for a good few years, and not since she got married, actually. So it was the first time meeting her husband, which was really cool. Like, and they're both really sporty and you know, up for activities and all this sort of stuff. And that's like what I like doing. It was really cool. I got to visit them. We went like rock climbing, and we went to a brewery. We went and played golf. We went and played football, like soccer, because her husband, his family's Mexican, and like Central and South Americans obviously love soccer generally, and we went and played soccer on one of the university fields over there. And I only went. I'm not a soccer player. I am not good at football. And I went along because I just assumed it would just be like a load of Americans, and I thought, well, I could probably play football with the Americans, like it won't be too bad. And I turned up there, and there was Brazilians, Argentinians, Colombians, Hondurans, Mexicans, all of these like people who are from countries where they play this wonderful style of football. But hey, I joined in. It was really cool fun. Yeah, Houston in general was really cool.
I know I didn't get there, but yeah. Where else? Or did you do anything like specific in Houston other than obviously just hang out with your family, which is really cool anyway?
I mean, other than we just like had fun, man. We just did like loads of activities,
nice.
and yeah, that was about it, to be honest. And my next stop was the one where I was really going to try and experience the city, and it was Austin, Texas, because I hadn't actually planned to go there, but every American I had met along the way, like when we were in South America, along the way in the southern states as well, had said, if you're going to Texas, you have to go to Austin. And I was like, I don't have, like, I hadn't planned it, I didn't have time for it, but everyone kept saying it, and so I thought, alright, I'm going to do this. Now, 2 of my cousins live in Austin, but they at the time happened to be back in England visiting our grandma, so that was just bad timings. But what I was able to do was one of those 2 knew a friend that was driving from Houston to Austin, so I was able to jump in with her and get a free ride, which was really cool. And then the other cousin who lives in Austin had obviously loads of friends there too, and I was able to crash on the couch of one of her friends. And by like fluke, this guy worked at Facebook, and like Facebook has a big headquarters office in Austin, so I went and actually met him with my big backpack, went to the Facebook offices and turned up there, and like he gave me a tour of the Facebook building and stuff, and it was so cool. They have like, it's so relaxed, and I don't know what you see in like the films and stuff. It's true, you know, like all these sort of tech startups like Google and Twitter and stuff. They're all very modern, and they've got like free food everywhere around that you can just take, and they've got a chef that prepares 3 meals a day for free for all the workers and visitors and stuff. It's fantastic.
Wow, I'm on my way.
But like, what I didn't know at the time was that this guy, it was his birthday over the weekend that I was there, and he'd arranged like a boat party on Lake Travis down there for him and like 40 of his friends. So I got invited along to that, of course, because I was staying, and that was just amazing. It's, you know, it's June, or it's May, June time, so it's like the height of summer, almost the height of summer there. It's really hot anyway. And yeah, went out onto this boat party, and so the guy I was staying with, as it happens, all of his male friends who were on that boat party were gay, and all of his female friends who were on that boat party were straight. Now, Americans love a British accent, right? That's the stereotype, is they love a British accent. Never before have I been on, well, in any sort of situation, but in this case, I was isolated on a boat with about 40 to 60 people, and never before have I been in such a situation where everyone is interested in me. You know? Guys, girls, and the captain. Like, it didn't matter who it was. It was a really bizarre situation, but it was funny, you know, it was kind of cool. Like, no one knew who I was. And so at the beginning, it was kind of like slow starting, like just having a couple of beers. But as soon as like one person started up a conversation with me, and people started to hear my accent, it was weird, man. I've never had so much attention like that. Because, I don't know, I'd say I'm a generous 5, you know, at the best of times. And to get like the attention of the whole boat was really strange. But it was a lot of fun.
That is absolutely hilarious. So you continued on your music tour, didn't you, after you left Texas?
Yeah,
your music inspired tour. Sorry.
My music inspired tour. I mean, if you want, before we leave Texas, I can tell you about how I stroked a bear.
Do it. Yeah, that sounds ridiculous.
Like, all right, so after everything I'd heard about, you have to go to Austin, my 4th and final cousin lives in Waco, Texas. Now, everyone I told that I was going to Waco was like, Waco? Why are you going to Waco? There's nothing there, right? Within half an hour of arriving, I had stroked a black bear. And that's separate from the gay thing that I was just talking about. This was a real like, animal, like a bear. And yeah, man, like it was really cool. So the reason I was going was to visit my family. Waco as well, for those of you like us who grew up in the 90s, and if you're like me interested in cults and conspiracies, will remember that's where the whole shootout and army assault on the Branch Davidians cult took place. And I went down and visited the place where that all took place, where that tank shot fire into the building, but they claimed that the building caught fire by itself, all this sort of stuff. I I didn't know that cult is still going today. Like, I thought it ended in 96 or whenever it was. But no, there are still some of them there. And my cousin's husband drove me out there. He was a bit apprehensive about it because he lives there. He knows it's a bit weird, those people who live there. And we drove up to the front gates, and I got out of the car to take a photo, and he was like, wait, where are you going? He was really apprehensive, and I said, I'll just take a photo. And he said, okay, leave the door open in case you need to get in quickly. And I thought, oh, come on, man. Like, it just looks like a ranch, it's out in the middle of nowhere. And within, 30 seconds, I saw someone walk from the building to a van, like to a pickup truck, and start driving towards us. And they were coming to chase us away, So, and like, the guy I was with, he was like, get in the car. So we had to get out of there.
Wow, that's insane. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And so we went from there to, he was a PhD student at Baylor University, which is one of the top colleges, I believe, in the States. And their sports teams, they're called the Baylor Bears. And I didn't know this, but in America, or at least in Texas, I don't know if it's the case everywhere, if your team is named after an animal, you will have that animal somewhere on campus, like the real version of that animal somewhere on campus.
Yeah, a lot of them do that by all accounts.
And I didn't know
brilliant.
that. Yeah, it's really cool. But like, he told me this and said, you want to go see the bears? I was like, sure. And I thought it'd be like they'd be in their enclosure or whatever, and they were. But he said, yeah, I know the guy who feeds them. Do you want to, I think they're about to feed them. Do you want to come, feed them? And I was like, no. He's like, I don't want to, feed a bear? That can't be, that can't be safe. But we went and did it. Obviously, it was safe. It was through this sort of mesh fence and stuff. We weren't just giving it out of the hand like you feed a horse or something. But as it was tucking into its food, I went round to the sort of back of it and just put my hand through the fence and touched its back leg. And I almost shit myself because, mate, yeah. Mate, I almost capped my pants because it turned around. Like, I barely touched its fur and it turned around and almost jumped on my hand. But yeah.
Wow.
No, everyone said don't go to Waco, there's nothing there. I touched a bear, man.
Worth it then, yeah, worth it.
Definitely worth it. I spent a night in Dallas with the guy I met in New Orleans, like I told you. But as you said in your podcast, didn't do too much there. I went and saw where JFK was shot, and for me that was about it. I took a bus out to Memphis from there.
That's cool.
And Memphis, for music, was unbelievable. Memphis is the birthplace of rock and roll and the house of the blues. That's what they call it. It's where Elvis made his name. It's where he lived. It's where his house was. It's where he died on the toilet. Like, there was everything there, man. I went out to his house as well, and it was unbelievable how that guy lived. I loved that house and going through it and stuff. That guy had a life like no other.
That's amazing.
He's also buried in the backyard, so you can go and see his grave. It's kind of weird. Like, his whole family is buried there. There's like 5 or 6 gravestones there. It's kind of strange. But yeah, but it's obviously, like I said, birthplace of rock and roll, home of the blues. It's like Sun Studios is there. That's where all the big names have recorded albums there. Johnny Cash, B.B. King, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis, obviously. Loads of these old traditional guys who brought rock and roll and blues and jazz all to the forefront. That's where it all started, or where it all really came popular. It was incredible. Yeah, and the guy I couch-surfed with there was so cool. Like, I stayed with him for 5 days in the end, just because I loved it so much. I wanted to go on to Nashville afterwards, but at the time it was when they had Bonnaroo, which is the biggest country festival, I think, in the world, definitely in the States. And there was literally no hotels, no couch surfing hosts available, nothing. I just couldn't get over there. So I ended up having to just get an overnight bus up to Chicago. Now, I stayed in Chicago. I stayed in Chicago for a couple of days, and as it happened, this was the day after the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup. So I got to be there for the victory parade through the center of Chicago, which was really cool.
That would have been amazing.
It really was. Like 10 a.m., 2 million Chicagoans, Chicago Indianites, were on the streets, drunk, as out of their mind, drunk, like climbing up the street poles just to get a better view, climbing up the outsides of buildings and all this sort of stuff. They were all wasted, celebrating, and we followed the 3 sort of open top buses down to Soldier Field where the Bears play, where the NFL team plays, and they had a rally down there, and the atmosphere was incredible. Wow. But also that weekend was Gay Pride, and I was staying with through a friend of a friend again, and this guy was gay again, and I went down to Gay Pride with him because he was going with his friends and he invited me along. I thought, why not? And I'd never been to that before, and that was a really cool experience. I'd never been to anything like it. It was just a massive street festival party, really cool, and all sorts of people there, and I've never been hit on by guys before. That's just something that's not happened to me. So I had that happen for the first time, which was unusual for me. But
would it have been the second time though? I'm sure you got hit on the boat.
Yeah, on the boat. Okay, fair enough. On the boat, people were more showing interest, but I was getting attention from both sides, so from girls and guys. So it wasn't as obvious. But at Gay Pride, it was only guys,
course,
and they were also a lot more forward because they assumed I was gay because I was at Gay Pride, right? It's a good bet that I'm going to be gay, but it was unusual how forward they were, but it was a really funny, like I said, it was like a huge festival, which was a lot of fun. I really liked Chicago. That was really cool.
Awesome. Did you go anywhere then between Chicago and Boston?
I did. I went to New York, actually. I went to the Big Apple. I took a bus, 17 hours on a megabus to New York City. And, although it was cheap, man, the buses in the US are not as comfortable as the ones in South America. And you wouldn't think it was that way round, to be honest.
No, you really wouldn't at all. I completely agree.
As you know, the ones in South America, you can get ones that are super wide. It's like first class on an aeroplane, right? The seats are really wide and they go all the way back down to beds. They're super comfortable. And then in the US, you got Greyhound and Megabus are the main sort of long distance bus travel options, and they're just standard buses. The seats don't go back very far, and that's hard to sleep. That was 17 hours on one of them. That was tough. That was a hard journey. But anyway, I arrived in New York City. And I got a couch surfing opportunity again through a friend of a friend. And he gave me the address. I turned up in Manhattan, got the subway up to where he lived, rang the doorbell, he let me in, I went upstairs. Him and his girlfriend were sitting there on the sofa just to meet me. I'd never met this guy before. And he says, it's my birthday this weekend. We're going to go see a Yankees game tomorrow if you want to come. And I was like, yeah, sure. Well, fantastic. New York Yankees, that's one of the big sort of sporting and general things to do, right, in your life. Mm-hmm. Is go and see the Yankees play when you're in New York City. So, but he also then just said, oh, I'm also just going to let you have my apartment. I'm going to stay with my girlfriend. Here's my key. I'll see you tomorrow at the game.
Holy shit.
And he just gave me his apartment. I'd never met this guy before. And all of a sudden, I arrive in Manhattan with just a backpack, and I've been given a New York City apartment to myself.
Yeah. If that doesn't sum up the couch surfing community, I don't think anything else can.
Yeah. I mean, as far as what people are willing to just offer complete strangers, it's so nice, It's so, community. As you say, it's a community. It's really cool. And so I went around New York City, did as much as I could in the 2 days I had. I went to Ground Zero, where the Twin Towers were. That was really sobering, actually. That was a really weird experience to be down there, just looking at these two huge holes in the ground where there once stood these ginormous skyscrapers, and obviously then knowing what happened to them and stuff. But I went over to Staten Island on the ferry so I could sail past the Statue of Liberty and then get the classic New York City skyline photo, all that sort of stuff. I walked along the High Line, which is a disused subway line above ground over New York City, which has now been turned into a walking garden type thing, which is kind of nice. And and then went up to the Bronx and watched. Went to Yankee Stadium and watched the Yankees play the Phillies, I believe it was, and I'm not a baseball fan, and I didn't know anything about baseball, and it's not an exciting sport to watch. But it was really cool to be there and soak up the atmosphere. You know.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, it's not the most It's not the most exciting sport ever, at all, at any stage.
But it was nice to be there, like you say, Yankee Stadium, and I did actually quite a few stadia. Like I feel like I got that from you. Obviously, what we did in South America with the Maracanã and Stadio Centenario and Bombonera that we saw. I actually ended up going to quite a few stadiums in the States as well. Like I went to the what's it called? Is it the one where Chicago Bulls play anyway, where the Michael Jordan statue's outside of it? Like for me as a basketball player, that was just incredible. And
nice, yeah. And then so you stayed in New York for what, about three nights, was it? Or am I just pulling that number out of my ass?
No, I think it was like 2 days. 2 days, but 3 nights. Like I went on the morning of that third day because I timed my bus to Boston, so that I'd arrive on the same day as you flying in from Orlando, right?
Yes.
So I got the bus up to Boston.
Yeah, that would have worked. That worked well, but mine was delayed, and then we'll get into that in the next podcast.
Yeah, we lost each other a little bit, didn't we? At the very last hurdle, we got lost.
Yeah,
but
exactly. So,
but,
would you have any had any like real highlights, like from other than what you'd have said? Like, does anything kind of spring to mind now that is like, you know what, I really enjoyed that, like looking back at it?
As far as like unique life experience, like I loved visiting my family, okay, so let's put that right out there straight away. But as far as like unique experiences that I probably won't do again, it was definitely visiting Memphis. That was just so cool, like the history of that place, the music of that place, unbelievable. And then to be honest, the rest of those sort of once in a lifetime things actually happened during the camp, so we'll save that for the next podcast, I think.
Yeah, definitely. For anyone who's listening, please interact with us. You know that we're just starting this off our own backs. We talked about it before, and we've finally gotten around to it. So any criticism or any encouragement is appreciated. It really is. So either on our YouTube page, which you're probably listening to this right now, or when we eventually do get onto a podcast app, you know, subscribe, rate, all of that kind of stuff. But you can follow myself and James on Twitter. James is at TweetBelsey. I'm at OCR Cove. We're obviously both on Facebook as well. Between those, you'll have one of us on one of those things. Feel free to add us both on the other. I'm actually also on Instagram at OCR Cove, and I'm on Snapchat at Crazy Axel. So, as I said, guys, just like, share, especially these first few episodes. We're trying to build a bit of an audience. Our next podcast is going to be talking about that camp that we both worked at in Boston. And after that, we're going to branch out. It's not going to be just about traveling around. I'm sure we'll come back to it at some stage, because that trip we took was epic. We've both done a lot of traveling, but we're going to go into some other stuff, so we're not boring your guys' ears off. So unless James has anything else to add to that.
I just wanted to say, actually, like, although we don't have many subscribers yet, we've got subscribers from 5 different countries on 3 different continents, which is just incredible. Like, we want this to be international, and it already has been. It's fantastic. I just, thanks to everyone who has subscribed already, and for those who haven't yet, who think you might want to hear another episode, just go ahead and subscribe to this thing.
Yeah, completely agree. So until you hear us next time, guys, bye-bye.